You can't get the adrenaline pumping without the terror, good people.
Welcome to this glorious Saturday the 13th, Friday the 12th, Thursday the 11th, Sunday the 14th, whatever day it is that I put this out. I am the Kaiju no Kami, and Halloween month is going to continue with the final installment to the original Friday the 13th series, Jason Takes Manhattan. Before Thanos, before Godzilla, there was another menace who threatened the livelihood of New York City, and that man was Jason. Despite the poor box office results of The New Blood, Paramount went ahead and greenlit another Friday the 13th sequel. They hired a new director to helm the film, this time a man who had directed a few episodes of the TV series by the name of Rob Hedden. Like with several of the other movies, the production of this film was met with massive troubles, from budgetary concerns, an actor having to be fired after filming began, and of course, the MPAA. Nevertheless, Hedden had the greatest idea ever to give the series a change of setting by placing Jason on the streets of good old New York City. Oh boy, I cannot wait to see what they do with this. As a New Yorker myself, this is so exciting. Hell, the ad campaign surrounding this movie was already astounding, as not only did they have to deal with the MPAA for their poster art being too bloody, but they had to deal with the actual city of New York claiming the studio needed permission to use the I Love New York signage, forcing them to use a new poster. Either way, let's dive into the terror in Times Square. Our movie opens with shots of New York City. Wow, we're getting right to it? This is great! We are treated to all kinds of advertisements. Hey look! It's the Batman logo! That's so cool! Because it's New York City, we get to see a guy get robbed. And the origin of Master Splinter. From here, the movie takes us to a boat on the waters of Camp Crystal Lake where two teenagers are making out. The boy tells his girlfriend a story about Jason.
There was this boy named Jason Voorhees. His mother blamed the counselors for her son's death. Legend has it that Jason came back to get even. Forget about it, Susie, they're just stories.
Shouldn't you have the internet by now? I mean, based on my calculations of how the timeline works for the series, right now it should be around the year 2007, give or take a year. I think you should have full access to the internet so you can fact check it yourself. Anyway, naturally their making out causes Jason to resurrect.
Of course!
He dishes out an absurdly bad demonic laugh, steals a hockey mask the boy had that is a near perfect replication of the one Carrie destroyed in the last film, before making short work of the duo. The next morning, we are introduced to our main cast of stereotypes, a senior class who is going on a cruise to New York City before graduation, most of whom will die off screen. The film's protagonist is a girl named Rennie Wickham, played by Jensen Daggett, who is afraid of the water due to an incident that occurred when she was a child where the ghost of child Jason almost caused her to drown. Or something like that. The movie's never really clear on what exactly happened, but we really know it can't be the ghost of Jason because he didn't drown as a kid. Then again, given the timeline of this movie, it could be that she was seeing the ghost of Jason try to pull her down when Jason was sleeping after the events of the 6th movie. That would make more sense, I guess.
That's stupid! Really stupid.
The other characters worth mentioning include her would-be boyfriend Sean Robertson, whose dad is the ship's captain and wants his son to follow in his footsteps, a boxer named Julius, a teacher named Colleen Van Dusen, and the principal, I think, Rennie's uncle Charles McCulloch.
I'm her legal guardian, not you or anybody else. And I know what's best for her. End of discussion.
Scott Reeves, V.C. Dupree, Barbara Bingham, and Peter Mark Richmond play these desserts. Unbeknownst to the crew, Jason sneaks aboard the ship before they take off, leaving one crew member to channel his inner crazy Ralph.
This voyage is doomed.
Moving on, the ship sets sail, and that is when our first death occurs to a lovely Joan Jett wannabe.
Is this act awesome or what?
Hey, you're the one that said your guitar was a killer. Jason stalks and kills some other people. Rennie looks for her dog who ran off, and I am suffering from a distinct lack of New York City. I mean, we're at the 30-minute mark at this point, and New York City has not appeared since the opening credits scene. Anyway, Rennie is knocked into the water by a snobby student named Tamara, who she saw snorting coke and has to be rescued by Sean. Charles berates Tamara for not having her biology project done, so she proceeds to make out with him.
I want to make sure I've labeled all my organs correctly.
Which ends up just being at the perfect time for another character named Wayne to walk by with his video camera.
What is going on here?
You got anything good?
Yeah, very kinky.
Give me that tape. Give it to me.
Come and get it.
Cool. But when do we get to New York? Afterwards, Jason kills Tamara. Sean's dad. And his crew member. Jesus, at this rate, everyone's gonna be dead before they reach the Hudson. Sean and Rennie find his dad, try to call for help, only for Jason to rip apart the cables that would allow them such.
Hello?
Tamara's friend dies in a restaurant that is set up like a disco club. Wayne searches for Not Joan Jett and meets Jason. Party on, Wayne! Wayne's toast. Jason kills another guy. Someday we're gonna get to New York City. For some reason, Jason just tosses Julius overboard instead of killing him. He attacks Rennie. Sean helps Rennie just in time for part of the ship to explode, killing all of the remaining survivors that aren't our core characters off screen.
Ooh, how convenient!
I just lowered the lifeboat.
We have to go.
Oh, wait! I left the others in the restaurant.
There is no more restaurant.
They're gonna have a nice and quick graduation this year. Although, you know what I'm still missing? New York City! Oh, and the wannabe Crazy Ralph dude dies. Our quartet flees into the lifeboat. Hey, Julius is still alive. And somehow Rennie's dog just randomly magically appears in the boat. Huh? No, seriously, look. The dog is not there as they were climbing into the lifeboat. And then they're in the lifeboat and the dog is there. Ghost dog. So after more than an hour since our movie began... Oh, where is New York? Our remnants find themselves entering...
Hey, man. Yo, wake up.
Can it be? Is it true?
Oh, shit. Check it out!
New York City! Yeah! Party time! Of course, Jason somehow swam himself all the way to New York City too, just so he could kill them, and is greeted by the most hilarious scene in the entire movie. Touché. While this happens, a couple of junkies rob the quintet, kidnapping Rennie in the process.
Follow us, we blow a fucking head off. Comprende?
They drug her up with the intention to rape her until the cock blocker that is Jason emerges.
Think I'm in love.
Rennie flees the scene. Julius is next on Jason's list, giving us what is by far the best death scene of the entire movie. Sean finds Rennie and they meet back up with Charles, Colleen, and a police officer.
Hey!
Rennie! Rennie, oh, thank God.
He takes them to his car to call for assistance, only for them to find that Julius is ahead of the game. Rennie decides to see what driving while on drugs is like and ends up crashing the car, killing Colleen in the process. And this is why you should not do drugs. Charles meets a very satisfying end. The surviving couple have a moment before being chased throughout the city via subway. To Advertisement Central. There's also a great scene here of some dudes listening to some pretty bad music.
Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Jason's all like, yeah, that's what I thought.
There is a maniac trying to kill us.
Welcome to New York.
Gotta love that New York City mentality. Yeah, what do you expect? You're in New York. Someone's gonna try to kill ya. That's what we do here. You never knew that? Well, don't come to New York if you don't think you're gonna die. Oh yeah! Rennie and Sean dive into the sewers, only to be greeted by a maintenance man who tells them this.
Can you help us get out of here? Sure can, but we haven't got a minute to spare. What do you mean?
Toxic waste, son. The sewer floods out with this stuff every night at midnight.
What kind of frickin' city would flood their sewers with toxic waste? There's so many different things wrong with that. Is this what the director of this film thinks New York City does? Either way, it doesn't matter as the movie completely botched the perfect opportunity to have Jason fight off with an alligator. And don't tell me you would not love to have seen that happen, because that would have been awesome. Instead, Jason kills the worker, knocks Sean out, and then chases after Rennie. Rennie throws toxic waste onto him. She grabs Sean and the two try to escape when the waste is dispersed. It melts Jason, reverting him back to a little child. That makes even less sense than the toxic waste in the sewers. Whatever. Our survivors, who were untouched by the raging waste river, are reunited with their dog where they go on to spend the rest of their vacation enjoying New York City. Or something. Whatever. The movie's over. That's all that matters. And what a complete total waste of time that was. I guess the title Jason Takes a Cruise to Manhattan was far too long, so they went with Jason Takes Manhattan despite it being completely misleading. Now, I know the film was originally planned to only spend 25% of its runtime on the ship and 75% in the city, which was constantly cut down due to budget constraints. But then they should have changed the name of their friggin' movie. It's not like the movies have not changed their titles just before they release in the past. Hell, some have even changed them after they came out. Either way, that was the first strike against this film. The second strike is just how useless all of the characters are. None of them matter. They're just there to die. At least Julius got a cool death scene. I mean, this is supposed to be a high school senior class, and I don't know about you guys, but my class had over 100 students graduate. Does that mean this movie had over 100 people die off screen? There sure looks like there are a lot of people on this boat based on the scene early on when we see a large crowd crowd of people on it. Why not just spend time showing every one of them die instead of wasting time in New York City? It's not like they really did anything in New York City though, since most of those scenes were shot in Vancouver pretending to be New York, and most of that was just a long ass alleyway that apparently encompasses New York. The third strike comes in the form of its overall presentation. To start, the film does not look like a slasher movie. The one thing I loved about the slasher films done in the 80s is the way they look with the use of grain, as it gives it a unique feel. There's something about the way they are filmed that gives them a sense of style like that a film noir uses. It's like the studio was trying to dress it up to look like a drama or something. It doesn't work. This is also the first movie in the franchise to not use Manfredini's score at all. Big mistake. Instead, they had the TV series composer who did do some of the tracks in the last film, Fred Mullen, to helm the entire soundtrack here. It sounds way too bombastic for a slasher film. Especially its opening and ending theme, which does not fit with the tone of the film at all. In fact, like the film, the music doesn't invoke any sort of suspense and tension whatsoever. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes a Cruise, is a pretty uneventful film and perhaps the worst film in Paramount's run of the series. It's just such a lackluster grand finale, and I mean grand finale. It's so bad, the characters are worthless and pointless. It's actually some of the worst characters in this series. It's just overall a bad movie and doesn't make a lick of sense. It didn't have the budget to meet what it wanted to do, what it advertised to do. It's just a mess of a film everywhere. At least it's better than what came after, I guess. And there are a couple cool ideas done, like, as I said, Julius's death. Overall, though, this is one for fans of the franchise only. Everyone else should just skip it and watch something else instead. Until next time, bye.